Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville Special Council meeting. Today is Wednesday, January 23rd, 2013, approximately 7 p.m. We'd all kindly rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mayor Cinco?
Here.
Mr. Erb?
Here.
Dr. Grieslock?
Here.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Here.
Mr. Johns?
Here.
Mrs. Allison?
Here.
Mr. Duncan?
Here.
Mr. Ramsey?
Here.
Mr. Silka?
Here.
Mr. Zunich?
All righty.
Mrs. Worksman?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you was
Here.
on. I didn't-
Mrs. McKinney?
Here.
All done? All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a little bit of change on the agenda. I'm going to open up for public comments on agenda items only. As you see, we just have the one agenda item. So if you'd like to come up and address council, you may do so at this time. Seeing none, we'll move over to, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Please sign in and state your name and your address for the record.
Mary Beth Fishman, 164 Bluegrass Circle.
Sorry, Mary Beth, I didn't realize you were coming up.
That's okay. I'm simply here to ask council to please reconsider before you pass the motion to allow the solicitor to proceed to raise the tax basis. Mr. Erb submitted a balanced budget. Your manager submitted a budget that.
No problem, Don, I can't hear you.
Joe, can you, or one of you guys, can you turn it up a little bit? Apparently they can't hear in the back on the mic.
Okay, Mayor, we'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you start over? I'm sorry.
That's.
That's fine.
Okay, I'm asking you to reconsider allowing the solicitor to proceed with passing or seeking the tax increase. As I said previously, Mr. Erb submitted a budget for your consideration. Your manager submitted a budget that had a 2% increase. He recommended over $3 million in the proposed budget that he submitted. I realize not all of those items can be granted, but there are a lot of items that can be taken into consideration before this tax is passed. It deeply concerns me that you're drawing into the reserve budget, that you're not meeting pension obligations, and you want to raise taxes. You're heading right down the path for Act 47, and I strongly request that you reconsider this action.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address council? Seeing none, Mr. Silka, if you will, please. First item.
We have one item on the agenda today that is to authorize the solicitor to prepare and submit a petition to the Court of Allegheny County for approval of a tax levy in excess of the 5% windfall. If you'll recall at the last meeting when the budget was adopted, and the solicitor was authorized to submit this petition as long as it did not exceed .50 mils. After the excess millage was not to exceed .50 mils. After the final calculations of the deletions of the budget, we were actually at a .547 millage excess that we would need the levy to do. So the meeting was called today to authorize the additional millage. Just as a note, the excess millage would be an additional $117,898 in tax revenue from the .50 excess millage.
Questions or comments either for the manager or the solicitor council?
Shouldn't the comments be after a motion?
Sure. Oh, well, we can do that too. Well, we've done it both ways, but motion on the floor.
I make a motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments?
I'd like to make some comments. You know, nobody likes to raise taxes, and so the first thing that we did was we raised taxes to the maximum allowable by law, which is the 5%. But that wasn't enough. So now we're coming back today to solidify a tax increase and to increase it yet just a little bit more, as though it doesn't hurt when it's just a little bit more. The bottom line is we have failed on safety issues with this budget because it's been demonstrated that dispatch by the county would be safer than what we're using today. We have failed on the grounds of protecting our taxpayers and their pocketbooks, because we have dipped into their pocketbooks. And we have failed on our obligation for the sustainability of this community and the resilience of this community. On 3 grounds, this budget fails. And I would implore you to reconsider what I have offered previously. I would implore you to at least consider not going forward with this court-approved, if we get the court approval. If we can't agree that the budget should be managed with more restraint, at least don't go beyond the 5% that's allowable in a year where you have a reassessment. And if in fact you are going to go beyond it, then do what is fiscally responsible for this municipality and raise it the 3 or 4 mills that's necessary to fund the OPEB obligations in full, as well as fund the increases that we know will occur next year, so that we're not coming back to the people of the municipality with additional monies. You know, Milton Friedman said that the money that we spend the best is our own. Nobody spends other people's money as wisely as they spend their own. Well, this isn't our money, and that's why we're not spending it wisely. Aristotle made it quite simpler. He said the essence of economy is this: the outgoings must be less than the incomings. And since we as a government are unable or unwilling to keep our outgoings less than our incomings, we simply mandate an increase. We've gotten something like 30 to 1 on emails, and all of us have gotten those emails that have said, do not do this to us. People saying they will leave this community as a result of this. Businessmen telling us that this will fail because the expectations of this increase will not bring what we think it will when our property values decline, when people won't buy in Monroeville, and when businesses don't come here because of the situation. We're taking money out of people's pockets, and as Ms. Fishman said, we are headed towards penury. Fair and simple, we will be insolvent at the rate we're going. So I implore you, reconsider this and do not vote to approve this, and in fact roll back the budget to a more reasonable amount. Mr. Mayor, I'll give it back to you. I'm done.
Sure. Any other comments? Lois, you said you were going to make a few.
Yeah, I had a comment, but listening to Mr. Erb, I will, in consideration of what he has said, remind him that, and this was part of the comment that I had at the end of our regular business meeting, that it's a funny thing about spending other people's money. Since 2009, actually since this last year, when I was only then able to take a look at the investments that had been put aside for post-employment benefits, was I able to see that in the years that started at the bottom of the market, April of 2009, when we first started to invest that, the fee structure cost us over $3 million that we could have had to fund it. Actually, that's a conservative estimate. I explained that. I tried to run on that. I wasn't part of the Finance Committee until Mr. Cukor left. When Mr. Cukor came back to explain that, he said many things that were absolutely correct, but what he left out was how much money was drifted away, nice way to put it, on the fee structure of that. Or we would have been more prudent to do that. And I said at the end of that I look forward to us being able to do that. And I think we're taking steps now. The OPEB committee is trying to move that in the right direction. But this is other people's money as well. And in deciding this vote, I tried to join you with what you wished to do and to try to do as I was asked to do. And that I felt I should do, and that is to find everything that we could reduce. Some services I didn't think that we needed. I agreed with Mr. Erb. I didn't win that vote. The other services that I thought, well, if there's anything to be done about them, they needed to be intact. And so I tried to be fair with what was determining what costs in services could or should go away. As dismayed as I was with how that was going, I continue to look forward to picking right up again and not waiting for the end of the year compromises or a quid pro quo deal. And by the way, I've asked 3 times if our fire chiefs would share with me the content of that compromise, and I'm still waiting to hear. I'm happy we finally agreed how we would bid out contractual relationships, as this should have been done years ago. And it took 4 years to get enough of a majority in supporting how we should re-examine the costs. Those are contracted costs everywhere across the board to those services. And after seeing what we could reduce, we're still faced with the supporting of a tax increase if we want to keep our current level of services, which I've heard you say that we do. And I would like that as well. The assessed value of our homes may have gone up with this tax assessment. You know, some went down, some went up, mine went up. And then when mine went up, I drove Mr. Silka a little crazy the other day by going over and adjusting for the increase. I wanted him to check my math, extending to all the decimal points that I said he didn't. And so I could see what the potential increase was. And so at the high end, I'm figuring that that tax increase will increase what our home pays by $42 a year. Meanwhile, I must accept this because I was asked, and I did everything I could possible to avoid the increase. I trust our council is well prepared to roll up their sleeves in subsequent months, beginning immediately. I'm prepared to address this as soon as we meet again. Meanwhile, I expect to see a fair process and a level playing field for any potential entity who wants to do business with this municipality. This includes OPEB services. And I hope council will become more involved with what I've been trying to report to them about the OPEB fee structure. I'm certain that in experiencing low spirits in the face of difficult challenges everywhere, not just in a municipality, we will not give up. I don't plan to give up. I anticipate attention be paid to the issues with these service bids and the services themselves as we find ways to offer them more efficiently, and the ideas from our manager working with his managers. And my hope is believing that you have the will and the way to accomplish your goals. That's what I call hope. And so we must, all of us, as I like to say, continue to do all the homework that's necessary in doing this, carrying it forward. Thank you.
Any other comments, council? Seeing none, roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Absolutely not.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
And right now, we'll move over to public comments again. Anybody like to address council? You certainly may do so. Please state your name again for the record.
Again, it's Mary Beth Fishman, 164 Bluegrass Circle. I ask that I receive a copy of the petition when it's filed because I will be filing an appeal on behalf of the citizens.
Anybody else like to address council? Come on up, sir. If you would, please sign in, state your name for the record and your address.
My name is Joe Burke. I live at 531 Shoemaker Drive. Ms. Drumheller is my councilman. And as I said in my emails that I sent to both Mr. Mayor and the council person, I have to live within a budget. My budget is pretty well set by my salary. At my age, I'm still working, but I really shouldn't have to. I'm a widower. I live by myself. And I managed to make it, but just barely. But nobody's going to give me any more money. I have to make what I've got work. And I think council in Monroeville is going to have to do the same thing. You have an obligation to the taxpayers. You have an obligation to live within your budget. And don't spend money you don't have. I can't do it, you can't do it. It's just the way I feel. I mean, you know, it's hard to understand. Let me back up just for a second. If you approve this budget tonight, what's to say you won't come back in a year or so and say, hey, we don't have enough money. We need to raise taxes again. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. It happens in government at every level of the state. Nobody wants to live within what they can, what the taxpayers can afford. That's just the way I feel about it, and I think I've got a valid assumption. We're spending money that we don't, you guys are spending money that we don't have. And we got to try and manage our expenses a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Anybody else like to address council? It is certainly your time to address council. Len, you know the drills. Please sign in, and there's a pen right there.
Attached, Lynn.
Duh. Okay.
State your name and your address for the record, please.
Yeah. Len Young, 656 Cooper Road, right here in Monroeville. I'll be very brief. Apparently, those that voted yay for the budget are suffering from a disease called politicianitis. We see it in the newspaper. We see it on the television set. Washington, D.C., wow. I call Senator Casey's office, Pat Toomey. I used to be in Tim Murphy's district, now I'm in Keith Rothfuss's district. But boy, I used to call him once a week when all this stuff was going on, the fiscal cliff and all that. It's just a shame. It's just a shame. As the gentleman just said, you guys, you're spending our money, okay? It's easy to spend other people's money. What happens when you run out of it? Well, I guess we'll see. Thank you very much.
Would anybody else like to address? Come on up, sir, if you would, please. Once again, please sign in and state your name and address for the record.
Bill Kendall. I live at 1383 Foxwood Drive. 2 quick points. Number one, I've been a real estate agent for the past 7 years. Monroeville's been my home all my life. I don't know if you guys are aware with the technology today, people are looking for houses. They can pull up in a heartbeat tax rates across the county and across western Pennsylvania, every municipality, and they can look right there on the spot. I've been in a house and, well, you know, compared to that one we saw in about Lebanon or Murraysville or whatever and make a direct comparison. Trust me, you're not making my job any easier by this vote tonight. People do look at this. People do look at the taxes. People do look at what the real estate taxes cost. It's on every MLS sheet that goes out. If you ever bought a house, you've seen that sheet. And it's got the taxes right there, and people compare it across the board now more than ever in the past 7 years. So, when people come up here and express concern about people moving into the municipality or considering that, I don't know if you've had any other real estate agents talk to you, but trust me, I see it every single day. Obviously, I live here, so I don't want to deter people from coming here. The second point I'd like to make, some of you may know, I've been part of running the Foxwood Pool off and on for the past quarter century. And as we all know, the pools are sometimes an issue here in this municipality. Nick, you personally, you've got 3 in your district. This isn't going to help the pools at all. Some of these pools, as we know, are on the edge, and I can't speak for any but Foxwood. Foxwood will figure out a way to get through it, but from what I hear, this could push some pools over the edge. So on top of the double whammy of someone's real estate tax going up, you might be taking away a pool in which 100 or so families use for their entertainment for their children. And then what? So, again, please consider that this is far more broad-based. The impact is far more broad-based than maybe initially you're thinking. That's really all I had to say. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Once again, would anybody like to please come on up? Please sign in and then state your name and address for the record.
My name is Lorraine Lewis Burke. The reason I'm here, I know that we need to try to maintain what we're used to as far as living is concerned, but it's pretty hard when you go deep in my pocket. I have before me my paperwork from the county where I was assessed $159,000 and $159,000 for a property back in 2001 was $73,700. I appealed and I lost my appeal. With all the documentation of using Garden City compatible to other properties, I did not win the case, and it wasn't a case of winning or losing. It was being realistic and being honest to me as a citizen. Looking at the taxes with the county, looking at the school taxes, and now what you're proposing, I'm saying it's not just. And you need to find another way of dealing with whatever your shortage is. I should not be penalized at the amount that I'm seeing in black and white and using all the resources that are available to me to try to do a rebuttal only to have it nullified. Nothing's changing, and I'm saying to you, if you go forward with this, and if they go up, see what you're doing to me totally. I gave you the amount, do the math on it. Do you think I'm going to be able to, if I wanted to leave here because I can't afford to stay, do you think I'm going to be able to sell my property? You don't want to lose a good citizen, and I say that about me. I love Monroeville. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, would anybody else, again, like to address, please come on up. If you'll please sign in, sir. And then after that, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Well, first of all, I am a retired school teacher. I taught for 40 years in
Please state your name for the
Pennsylvania.
record and
Oh, my
address.
name is Donald Vidra.
There you
Okay,
go.
Burke Drive.
There you go.
And I'm retired now. I'm on Social Security. And several years ago, I had a cost of living raise. I'm supposed to get another one this year. And with this added tax, I won't see one penny of it. I haven't seen a penny of it from the last time it was raised, and I won't see any now to pay the additional taxes. I think that's a shame. Have you people considered the elderly citizens in this community? I don't know if you have. Okay, my cost of living, or my standard of living will go down. My wife lost $120 for the payroll tax. What are we, supposed to do? I have a question for you. Where will this additional tax money be spent? I heard it was 70% for a teacher's pension.
Sir, this is not the
No.
school board. This is your
You
municipal.
You can answer that, that
No,
question?
no. That- You'd have, they have a meeting tonight. I'm sure it's
another
still going
meeting.
on. I couldn't answer that. Sorry.
Okay. That was another ball of wax I'd like to consider. Now, my wife made a good point, and I think was brought up before. We have had the idea of leaving Monroeville too, because of the higher taxes. And you guys, if you keep doing this, raising taxes, you're going to kill the goose that lays the golden egg, just like they're doing in Washington. You will start to lose citizens, and then you're going to have a harder time raising tax revenue. And then what are you going to do then? I heard we have another tax coming next year. Where does it stop? Is the sky a limit? How much have you guys cut back? Spending. I mean, I see, is in my imagination, when I look around, I see brand-new vehicles that the people who work for, Monroeville drive in. 2010, 2012 vehicles. Do you own any vehicles over 5 years old? You keep spending, I mean, why do we have to have the best of everything? We have the best, football fields, turf, vehicles, everything. Give the people a break. You have to start living within your budget. Thank you.
Once again, would anybody else like to address council?
Oh, get up, it's just me.
Please sign in and then state your name and address.
This doesn't
for
take
the-
off of my time, right? We covered that last time, right, Mr. Mayor?
You're good.
You guys are good, too. Appreciate you willing to run for and be representatives of the citizens of Monroeville. I appreciate that. So I was tardy, forgive my tardiness. What did you vote for then? What was the vote for? That you're unanimous for?
The vote was for the 0.47 versus the 0.5 that they approved already last month. There was $117,000 that they voted on the increase.
It was an excess millage of .547 mils above the 5% windfall.
Yeah.
Could you state your name, sir? I'm
Keith
sorry.
Brown, Woodhaven Drive.
Oh, yeah,
Monroeville.
I'm sorry, Keith. I should have said that too. I apologize.
So that'll fix everything financially? Once we raise this, everything will be fixed?
Services, are you saying?
Well, the budget, right? It'll be balanced, and we won't have to do this again, right?
Hopefully not.
We have to do better, sir,
In what way?
financially.
When you say better financially?
In budgeting, both on the expenditure side and on the revenue side, but you have to look at both. And you've got to make that a year-long process. That's what I feel.
Okay, so on the budget, there's two sides. There's money coming in and money going out.
Of course.
Okay. So if you're not getting enough money in, what are some other ways to get more money in?
Well, hopefully,
Other than raise taxes, raise prices?
well, as you heard at one of the meetings, Mr. Silka has offered council, and I guess we'll start working on that, on an incentive package, if you will, to bring business in. And he's not prepared to talk about that yet. I don't think any of us are. But it's an economic development package, if you will. And we should be coming forward with that. And I have a program that's going to work with that. It's going to predominantly work with residents. I think it'll benefit the residents, but we're going to have to sit down here as soon as we get this process done. Hopefully, you'll be hearing more about that in February, March the very latest. That's the only way you can do. You have to work to bring business in and hopefully make the community safe enough and attractive enough with all the amenities that we have that people will still come here and want to live in and play and work in Monroeville.
Okay. Just some background. My name's Keith, and I'm family of 5. Live here in Monroeville, modest home. I work here in Monroeville. I work right across the bridge. And the guy I work for is a lifelong resident of Monroeville. And I worship here in Monroeville. So I'm really blessed. I'm one who I live, the next who I work, and the other who I worship. My children go to school here. The budget. If we keep the levels the same, will the taxes increase? So it's the spending that's the problem, and that's why we have to raise the taxes?
Obviously, I'm sure we've talked about this more than once here in council. The actual millage rate hasn't been raised since 1991 by this council. I realize you've had increases because of your county assessments over the years. That's a fact. What has happened is, and right or wrong, our past council members, all the way up through the current, they've done the best that they could, but it's come to the point where they either chose to raise the millage rate like they did, or we're going to have severe cuts in all services. I mean, it's just that plain and simple. You're right. We did balance. Oh, it's not really balanced. We got the budget passed and moving forward. Lois is correct in saying that this council's really going to have to work very diligently this year coming up to avoid any further tax increases, because I agree, I don't think anybody can afford to do that.
Okay.
So it's going to be a long year. I agree with you, Lois. It's going to be a year-long process. It's going to take a lot of hard work, and there's going to be sacrifice all of us are going to have to make with our services if you truly want to cut. And that's where it's really going to be. I mean, so, I would suggest to council that I agree with Lois. We're going to have to start on this pretty damn quick. Excuse my language, but that's just the bottom line on that.
So, in that direction, in the last meeting I attended, you mentioned looking for a webmaster. Was that the term? A website? Was there a job or
That was
position?
for the library.
That was library.
Well, I thought it was 2 positions.
There were 2.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
cut.
And one
They
was
were
library.
cut.
One was
They were cut.
engineering and one was in the library.
And just in citing that example, I'm glad it was cut, because the webmaster, I believe, you were looking to pay someone $75,000 American for this role. No, I'm wrong?
But that was an inclusive figure. That was salary, benefits, taxes.
Okay. And that's an example where maybe the private market in Monroeville could provide that service. Then you don't have to worry about the package and maybe save some money.
Well, it was cut, though.
Great,
It was
that's
cut.
great. Good.
Or, sir, you could also look at services you currently may have that can work out more efficiently, as we also, saw that was.
Right. And that's what I have to do in the private market, to be competitive. And that's where, it comes to competitiveness, and that's my original question about tax and an incentive. Movie companies come to Pittsburgh to film movies for the tax incentives. I mean, it's all over the news. So that's the word they use, tax incentive. And when you want to be competitive with other markets, as the real estate gentleman mentioned, taxes are a part of that, competitiveness. I mean, we lost a big tenant, Westinghouse, to a competing neighborhood.
Well, let me tell you something. That was set up way before we even got involved. I was involved in that. 8 of the 11, just so everybody's clear, 8 of the 11 top execs lived in Cranberry. Now, they weren't going to travel from Cranberry to Monroeville, I assure you. We all went to Harrisburg. We offered them the exact same package. Exact. They didn't offer them anything that we didn't offer them here.
Okay, well then, you're being misrepresented, because that story's not being told.
Well, I thought we did it.
Okay.
I'm glad I got it out there then.
Right,
'Cause
absolutely.
We gave them a dime for dime.
So that's what we're competing against. So why are the executives living up in Cranberry and not here? And why aren't we competitive with them? Is it the
We're
tax
competitive
rates?
with everybody.
Okay.
I mean, you look at the north, the south, the east, what, everybody's I mean, the competition is unbelievable, out there. And believe it or not, our municipal taxes are still one of the lowest in the county. Now, I'm not going to touch that with the scoreboard. I don't know where that is, but I can tell you, your municipal taxes are a lot less than most that are paying out there. And you can look around,
Well,
and
and I
that's
hope
very easily obtained. All you do is get online.
Right, and I hope
And I'm
that's
not
the
defending
case.
saying you're not right, but I'm just telling
But
you.
I hope that's the case with all the commerce we have in Monroeville. And we want to keep the commerce in Monroeville because
Absolutely.
that generates business taxes and what have you. But to be competitive, someone is not going to be incentivized to stay here or to even locate here if they know the taxes are going to go up and they're not sure if that's going to fix the problem. It could happen again soon.
Well, again, go back to what I said earlier. We plan on putting an economic development incentive program. I have a program that's going to hopefully incentivize people to stay in Monroeville and move into Monroeville. It's going to work hand in glove.
Through tax
with his.
reductions.
You're going to be pleasantly surprised when I put that out there.
Okay.
I'm working on it now. I'll work with Jeff on that, and I hope to have it out for council as well as the public by February, March, the absolute latest.
All right, well, and I thank you guys for being willing to represent the citizens, and I do thank you for citing all the emails you received on this issue and voting based on that. Ladies and gentlemen.
Once again, would anybody else? Okay. Bets, I think you know the drill.
Hi, I'm Betsy Desmond, 560 Firethorn. And this pen's not working. I just have one quick question.
Sure.
How much is this going to cost to take to court? To raise this, get this raised?
Zero.
Zero. It doesn't cost any filing fees?
It might
It
cost
doesn't cost-
$85 to file it.
Okay, Bruce or whoever does this doesn't get paid, to do
It's not an
that?
extra charge.
I
They're
mean-
on a flat.
They're on a flat rate.
They're on a flat fee.
Okay, and if somebody appeals it?
They're on a flat fee.
Okay, so it's not gonna cost Monroeville anything but $85 to do this?
Filing fee.
Filing fee, okay.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, anybody else like to address council? Please sign in and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name's Tora Bolton, and I live on Virgin Street. When you talk about raising taxes, and I sit here and look at this beautiful building, is that part of what the taxes go for?
Upkeep and utilities, sure.
No, I mean, the structure. Was it built with our taxes?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just think it's important to stay within your budget. That's how most people live. And I just would ask you to really think carefully about how you're going to spend our money. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Again, would anybody else like to address council? Seeing none, we'll move over to our reports of our officials. And Jeff, do you have?
Nothing.
Bob?
I have no report except that following the guidance of council, now we'll proceed to prepare a petition to seek court approval to allow the municipality to assess the tax rate that they previously discussed.
Is that it, Bob?
That's it.
All right, Clarence?
I have nothing.
Steve?
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Diane?
Nothing tonight.
I have nothing tonight.
Lois?
Mayor, I think I've said my piece.
Nick?
Nothing to report.
Vern?
I want to thank you all for coming. Anybody that's watching, I'd like to invite you, and I'd like you to invite all the other citizens of Monroeville to come to these meetings. A couple years ago, I proposed that we do it by ward if you can't make it all year. January would have been Ward 1, so on. February is Ward 2 until the 7th month. which is when most of just, it's pretty rudimentary. The 8th month is when budgets start to heat up. By October, it's really hot, so I would invite you, if you can only make it a couple times a year, think of doing it the way I just described it, whatever month it is, if that's your ward, show up, and if it's July or beyond July, if it's August through December, come. You're all invited. It's good to be involved. This is the American experiment that's been going on for over 200 years. We need to keep it going, so please be involved. Thanks for coming. Mr. Mayor.
Again, I agree with Bern. Please try to attend. As you know, I always, as many up here, ask you all to attend. But I do have to address another issue, and that has to do with Bern's proposed budget. There was some misinformation on that. It was not a balanced budget. The budget he did propose to cut the dispatch center, but still, and a couple other cuts, but still had a $2.1 million deficit attached to it. And if you remember, he said, I'll leave it up to the manager to cut. So it's not fair to say it was a balanced budget. It was not a balanced budget. I mean, if we're all going to just be upfront and honest about this, that's just like since there was misinformation on that Westinghouse, I felt I needed to straighten that out as well. This has been a tough budget, I have no doubt. And we've heard certainly from many residents, but we've also heard just as many residents say to each of them, and if you've heard them say, for and against keeping all the services. But I do agree that we do have a tough year coming up. I would hope that council will consider getting on the budget fairly quickly so we don't have to come back and repeat this. The biggest thing we have to do is increase our revenue, because I think everybody in this room, including everyone on this council, likes all the services we have. I don't think you want to pay for garbage. I don't think you want to lose the library. I don't think you want to lose the senior center. There's a lot that we can do, hopefully, to increase the revenue. That's where I'm coming from. We can do that, work collectively with you as residents, and hopefully work as a team up here. We'll get the job done with the administration. And I do thank you for all your comments. Your input is very important. Please try to attend as many of the meetings as you can. And with that, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night, ladies and gentlemen.